Thank you for joining another episode of Welcome Disruption, where we highlight the change makers in the senior living industry. Today, we're joined by Jason McCloud, the Vice President of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships for Patriot Angels, an organization that is connecting seniors who are veterans to the funds that they need for the care that they deserve. You won't want to miss this. Welcome to Welcome Disruption. This is another episode where today we're going to be talking to Jason McCloud, the Senior Vice President at Patriot Angels. I am so stoked to have you here today, Jason. We've worked together in the past, and you've had an impressive career in senior living. So can you share with our audience a little bit about what it's been like on your journey working with providers and now leading efforts at Patriot Angels?
Sure, absolutely. So first off, though, Adrienne and all the listeners out there, happy holidays. Hope you're all going to have a wonderful, merry holiday season and a happy new year. But thank you for this opportunity, Adrienne. As you mentioned, yes, we've known each other for, I can't even think now, is it like 10 plus years? So it's been a while, and just had the wonderful pleasure of working with you back in the day. I'm just so happy to reconnect with you again today. So again, thank you for the opportunity. As you mentioned, I've been in senior housing for now, I think it's about 16 years. I've been on the owner-operator side multiple times with Brookdale, Benchmark, Elmcroft, just a number of other providers. Also worked for Caring.com on the lead aggregator side, and then on the agency side as well as working with you at Sage Age. And just now I'm back on the vendor side working for Patriot Angels. So kind of a little here, there, and everywhere. It's been a great journey. And again, we were just talking before we started here, just, the friendships and connections you make along the way. It's just amazing. It's been an amazing full circle career so far in the industry.
Impressive. And you've seen things from an entire 360 degree, from the aggregator side to the operator side to the vendor partner side to the agency side. I mean, you've really got a ton of experience. So help those listeners who may not understand what Patriot Angels does. Can you explain that to them, how you help families and their veterans navigate the VA benefits that they need to access senior care?
Absolutely, Adrienne. So yeah, that's the number one mission of Patriot Angels, is really the education piece. So there's so many veterans and their spouses today, whether they're already in senior care or maybe in home care or needing care soon, really just do not know about this benefit. So the Veterans VA Aid and Attendance Pension Benefit, right now we know, so just give you some numbers, there's about approximately 840,000 veterans and their spouses living just in assisted living we know today. And that's a number that we got from our Genome data. So 840,000 of potential eligible veterans and their spouses that just assisted living. That's not memory care. That's not, independent living, which could qualify as well. There's certain criteria around that, or home care, right? But then we also know from the VA, only 140,000 nationally are receiving the benefit. Okay, so that's less than 10% of potential eligible veterans and their spouses receiving the benefit today. Of course, there's some criteria to meet, but really there's the education piece. There's so many, again, veterans, their spouses that don't know that they could be eligible for this pension benefit that can help pay for their care, again, whether that's home care or in a community, right? Today that just don't know about this benefit. So really it's the education piece. And then there's many that have tried to navigate the VA and try to navigate applying for the benefit, and it's just a lot of doing your own taxes, right? Where sometimes it can be pretty complicated. And just like working with a lot of government agencies at times, it can be cumbersome, can be a long process. And that's, again, where we can help step in and help ease the pressure of that process.
That is incredible that there are less than 10% of people taking advantage of, and I believe the monthly amount is well over $2,000 a month now to help offset those senior living costs. So when we engage with a new client, often the first thing we ask is for a quick brand asset checklist. Do you have collaterals ready to explain to new prospects about the VA aid and attendance? So the first touch of that information is hopefully coming from the salespeople themselves, or information found on the websites, like keyword optimized blogs for VA aid and attendance. But there are a lot of misconceptions out there and a lot of people who've been left with that struggling feeling. So can you help me understand how you educate consumers and what you would recommend for providers to continue to educate those consumers?
Yeah, great question. So today we're partnered with about 3,800 senior housing communities nationally. We also have some partners in the home care space as well. And again, we rely on the majority of our business. I would say 90% comes direct referral from our partner communities and home care partners. And so we're relying on them to help us educate, right, by the ones locally on this benefit and what it can mean to help pay for their care. So we spend a great deal of time supporting our partners, those again in senior housing and home care, to really educate them on what to see in terms of, here's like what the criteria is. Here's the 3 things to look for: age qualification, income qualification, and do they need care, 2 ADL, so on and so forth. Okay. So those are the things that we train heavily on, and we do a lot of support. We do a lot of marketing materials and support materials and ongoing training and seminars for our partners to really educate them on helping us educate their prospects and residents and our clients if you're on the home care side. Okay. So we really do the best that we can to support them that way, to then help us, again, educate the masses. And then at that point, once they refer to us, we can help them navigate the system.
So if I understand correctly, Patriot Angels is enabling communities to educate consumers so that they can start identifying those that are appropriate, bring about that initial educational awareness, and then when they're ready to move forward, navigating that process, you're still there to support them as they move forward, correct?
That's right. That's correct. So again, that's sort of our frontline education as our partners, right? Again, helping identify those that may not have heard about the benefit before, maybe have heard about it, tried to apply and weren't successful, to then have them learn a little bit more about it. And then, that's where we step in, where we come in and we say, here's the regulations, the rules, policies. Here's why maybe it didn't work for you the first time you applied, or this is how the benefit works.
Great. And I think that in addition to that initial awareness, in addition to that, educational piece, there's kind of that ongoing communication as well, because it is a longer process than just a day or two. One of the things that we've had a lot of success with is when we do our predictive analytics profile for a new client, we do an append specifically for veteran status. So we're able to look at every veteran listed within the portfolio and start to deliver them email campaigns, direct mail campaigns, ongoing segmented just for their needs, their concerns, their focus.
That's great. That's great. So a few things you mentioned there that piqued my interest. So one is, the process and the time and the complexity of the process. Again, that's where we step in and really help ease the pressure and that guidance of that process. Right now, we're on average of 97 days for approval, which is very, very fast. If you look at versus maybe go directly to VA yourself or maybe using another organization. So we take a lot of pride in that. We do work under a VA accredited attorney. So everything is reviewed by a VA accredited attorney before we turn it in, and it's very comprehensive, and that's why we have such a quick and high approval rate. But in addition to that, it's that constant, education piece that we're doing with that client or that prospect along the way. And again, in terms of, marketing and support there, we see, our client partners, a lot of times we're focused on the prospects and the move-in process, which is great, understandable, right? We do want to help our client partners, move that, prospect, that veteran or spouse into a community, get the care that they deserve and should be receiving. But also there's so many residents today in communities that could be eligible for this benefit that may not know it. And so right now, that's really what we're working with our client partners to look at more of, okay, let's identify folks in your community already today. Let's have a seminar. Let's work with, maybe your health and wellness team, whoever it may be that can help us address those, again, veterans and spouse residents that before they should get to maybe a financial move out or to Medicaid, where can we step in and help, right? Get them that benefit, help them maybe augment that benefit with maybe their sped down, right? To keep them in that community where they want to be in private pay, or whether they want to stay in their home and receive more care in the home before they would go to a community by utilizing this benefit.
How wonderful. The gift of walking into a family meeting, say we're doing a monthly family meeting, and being able to say, hey, I know things look okay financially right now, but you are eligible for this additional benefit that could help extend the life of your current savings or your current portfolio. I think that on a case-by-case basis could directly impact resident referral rates. Think about how happy a family is going to be when they're introduced this new $2,400 a month offset. They're going to tell their friends that you went out of your way to help them extend the life of their funds.
That's right. That's right. It's a great resource for our community partners to have, again, to help, help that move in process, to help, that prospect be able to afford that monthly fee, right? But in addition to, again, helping them stay in that community longer as well too. So yeah, it's a wonderful benefit. As you said, it's about $2,400. That's the average we see. It could be higher for a spouse only care. It could be a little bit lower. But if we're looking at, length of stay, so if there's a prospect or, a resident in your community today, or let's say it's home care too, and you have a client that needs more hours or more care, right? Before then, they would need to exhaust their funds. This could, again, help them with that sort of financial run rate. Again, same thing with senior housing. We see on average, so the average benefit being around $2,400, a little bit higher. And then we see that once they get under that asset cap of $159,000, now, I won't get into all the rules, policies, regulations, but once they get under that asset cap, then with that spend down with their traditional Social Security and or maybe pension they have, along with the VA aid and attendance pension that they're getting monthly directly into their account, they're able to sustain on average 26 months longer in assisted living at the national average. So it's quite substantial when we're looking at the care needs that they have. And then again, length of stay before they would be a financial move out and or need to go to Medicaid. So pretty substantial. And we see that a lot with our client partners. We call them client partners too on the veteran prospect side. We see that it really does make a tremendous impact. And we've had over 24,000 approvals in 12 years. And we're doing about roughly 400 right now a month. And we see this each and every month, the impact it's having to help these veterans and their spouses receive the care that they deserve, just much longer in the community or home that they choose to live in. So it's, again, very substantial.
I see Patriot Angels serving such a wonderful gap in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is, obviously when we engage with a client, the first thing we do is build the predictive analytics profile based on historical resident data. So knowing which of your current residents or veterans is going to be a wonderful win, like you said, with going in with care meetings. I'm thinking about the questions that I hear from providers are things like, how can I increase my length of stay? Patriot Angels. How can I increase my NOI? Patriot Angels. How can we better target and segment our audience? Veteran specific, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's a ton of benefit there. And when questions come up about raising rates or shifting to a higher level of care plan, that's a great time to bring in and maybe we should look at this option.
Great points, Adrienne. So right now, of course, we know we're going through that season of, those letters going out to families in senior housing where they're getting that, rent increase. And we see that year over year, and that's normal of the business, right? But, sometimes that's tough for families, to digest and understand, or even be able to afford at some level. Because it's not just the rent increases, but as you mentioned, the care increases. When you're going up by levels of care, it can be substantial in terms of monthly financial commitment, right? So again, that's another resource where we can come in, right? Where we're a partner with the community, whether it's a sales and marketing director, the ED, the health and wellness team, where we can say, hey, we understand this is a financial burden. Are you a veteran or spouse of a veteran? We can maybe help. We have a partner that can maybe help you offset some of these cost increases.
Absolutely. Whether that's going out with that annual referral letter. Do you know the value of a PS on a letter? Has a huge lift rate. Even a PS, are you a veteran or the spouse of a veteran, right? Putting a bill stuffer in. Those are, here's your annual increase letter. Also, here's a bill stuffer that speaks to Patriot Angels. So any way that we can educate the families, current residents as well. I love that communities are taking the time to really look inside. I like the term innervation rather than innovation. So I think we can leverage innovation and to leverage the support of our VA partners. So can you share a specific success story? Because we are the story keepers. So can you share a specific success story of where Patriot Angels helped a veteran or a community turn things around?
Yeah, we have many. So we have, like I said, over 24,000 approvals. The one that comes to mind recently, just about 3 months ago, and I can follow up and send you the article on that. But there was a local homeless veteran in California, and he was kind of bouncing around the community. And unfortunately, some local police members in the community just kind of like watched his movements in terms of, does he need anything? They were bringing him, water and food, and asking about his housing, and they found that he was actually living in his car for about 2-3 months. And they actually reached out to a local veterans service officer to say, hey, what can we do? This gentleman's a veteran. He's in his car. Is there something that can be done? And the local veteran service officer said, yeah, there's a partner we work with. It's Patriot Angels. And, let's try to link them up and see what we can do, because with this Social Security and this pension, if he would be approved, could help him get some senior housing. And so we came in, they referred to us, we came in, we were able to help that veteran, and now he's actually in senior housing today. Independent living and senior housing in a community that has 24-hour potential care opportunity for him. So, it really does make a huge, huge difference, not just in that gentleman's life, but, we hear about it all day, every day. We work with a lot of family members. So as you can imagine, just like with senior housing, you work with a lot of POAs, right? Or the family representative. And, they can't tell us enough how much it's helping take that stress, that financial pressure off of, not only their father or their mother, but also them as a family, right? With this monthly benefit. So it's definitely a difference maker. And as I mentioned, we're seeing more of that now that we're focused more on current residents or current home care clients versus just looking at those that are just starting to need care. Again, huge part of the population, but then there's so many, again, that I mentioned that are receiving care today that don't know about the benefit, that could end up receiving the benefit to help them pay for that level of care as care goes up longer, again, before they would maybe need to go to some type of fund or waiver program or Medicaid.
I think that is such a touching story. And I think we often say thank you for your service to our veterans, but I think you guys are actually thanking them for their service through the services you're providing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I believe that. I feel that here. I kind of say I stumbled into senior housing like many, but there's a reason why I never really left. And that's because it's really mission generated. It truly is. Those of us that have truly worked in this industry long enough truly believe that. Or I think we probably wouldn't still be in the industry. That, ultimately it's mission driven. Patriot Angels is very much mission driven. Again, number one is education. Number two is just doing everything we can to get that veteran or spouse approved for that benefit. So we work through all the nuances. We give them guidance. We give them legal guidance to help them navigate that process and to be successful through that process.
That is so fantastic. And I also appreciate you mentioned earlier about how waiting until you're trying to close the sale to use the VA benefit isn't always to your credit. Introducing that information as soon as that information is identified, I think, is ideal. And using email drip campaigns for that, segmented just off for your veterans, or including bill stuffers. Those are some of the easy win marketing tactics that I think providers can do and take away from this conversation to start leveraging VA aid attendants in their communities. So
absolutely. And we're going to see much more of that, right? So not only with Vietnam era veterans that we're starting to see now, but Gulf War veterans. We know there's a large segment of that population that really just, they don't have the nest egg, if you will, or the financial resources for, assisted living or typical, assisted living environment. And so, a lot of our partners that are more middle to lower market, we work strongly with, because we really do make a greater impact for those folks than maybe some of our partners that have, higher end type of properties or offerings. But even with that, again, helping, offset those care costs once they start getting close to exhausting some of their funds or their, that's where we come in and make a big difference as well too.
I absolutely love that. And I think that there's ongoing opportunity to keep Patriot Angels top of mind as it relates to veteran specific, whether it's current residents or prospective residents. So having looked at, you and I have been doing this for quite a while now, and we've looked at it from a lot of 360s.
Sure.
What trends do you predict for 2025?
Yeah, well, again, I continue to see the need there, right? So not just with the numbers, again, 840,000, give or take, and just assisted living, that's not counting memory care, which we know, that need and that acuity is driving and increasing year over year, but also home care as well. But knowing that and only 140,000. So we estimate there's about $100 million a month that's going unclaimed in terms of benefits or potential opportunity for folks to take advantage of these benefits to help pay for, again, their care. So we just see that continuing to increase, year over year. Everyone talks about the silver tsunami, of course. It's true. It's there. It's just, it might materialize a little bit differently for whether it's home care or
I agree wholeheartedly.
Housing, traditional senior housing, or now value-based care. But there's obviously a need there, and it will continue to increase, right, over the next, 2 decades roughly. And so there's going to be more of those veterans. So yes, we are seeing, unfortunately, less World War II veterans than we did help, let's say 12 years ago when we started. But today we're seeing more, again, Vietnam era veterans that are starting to come of age over 65 that are needing care, as well as, again, we've seen a little uptick now in Gulf War era veterans as well. So that's going to continue. And then, of course, we have at some point, we will have, Afghanistan and Iraq war veterans and their spouses as well. So, that need's going to continue to increase as we see year over year. So we're right now, we're just seeing just normal organic continue year over year growth, but we are looking at other areas beyond just, senior housing. How can we get, again, back to the education factor? How can we get the message out there about this benefit before they should necessarily need to move into a senior housing community or need additional care in their home? At what point? What are other areas where we can get out and educate? And so those are some things that we're looking at.
That's brilliant. Yeah. How can we make this part of their planning process from the gate is a big part of it. And I'm glad you brought up the different age cohorts. I've seen some really interesting research linking PTSD to what becomes dementia for a lot of older adults.
Sure.
And I think that often goes undiagnosed. And one of my most touching stories was a resident in a memory care community. So we're the story keepers. I believe in making sure we capture that resident's life story in discovery and also in onboarding and welcoming them. And I was listening to a community at ICAA talk about their discovery process. And they shared a story about one particular resident who was struggling with specific behaviors intermittently, and they couldn't quite put the pieces together until they realized that it was every time they served rice at a meal because he was in a POW camp. Especially for our memory care residents who may not have the same verbal or ability to express themselves that they did previously, taking the time to get that life story sooner rather than later will benefit them financially, I think, and emotionally.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, 2025 is going to be a big year. I think we talked a lot about the silver tsunami, and you're right. It's going to come in different waves. And our 2025 senior housing trend guide that we released really talks about how we age in place, as hard as that is for providers to hear. And it doesn't mean forever, but it means equipping them to be safe for while they're home.
That's right.
And so I love that you guys are doing the home care route as well. I think it's going to benefit long-term communities who end up accepting those residents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a need across the board, and there'll be many different ways. Fortunately, and I think that's great. There's going to be a lot of options in the coming years for those folks that need care to choose what type of care is best for them and what type of environment. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how this industry goes. Of course, we've all been talking about it for, 10, 15, 20 years, and now we're sort of on the cusp of it, massive, major changes coming, right? Whether that's in the next, 3 or 5 years, we'll see what, entails from government as well, too. Of course, as we were just talking about, a bill that, is going to help sponsor a program for the VA to look further at, providing a benefit for assisted living for veterans and their spouses, looking for, potentially value-based care options. So it's a pilot program for 3 years that's going to take a look at that, of what are the best options for our veterans to care for them in the coming years. And so we're excited about that development of, some further investment from not only government, but of course, from veterans organizations across the country too. So just excited to see all the programs out there and what are available for veterans and their spouses, as well as just for the population at large.
I am wonderfully optimistic about the future, and I am so grateful for you sharing your time with me today. For everyone who wants to follow up, anyone who's listening, how can they get involved with Patriot Angels, and what's the first step to becoming a partner?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. So patriotangels.com. So you just go to our website, of course, but you can also reach directly out to myself, j.mccloud@patriotangels.com. But, also, again, you could just, hopefully one of our partner communities. Today we are servicing, as I said, 3,800 communities across the country. And that's, by the ones, and then some of the largest, if not the largest providers in the senior housing industry. So hopefully we can connect through one of our partners, but also connect directly to us as well. And again, as I mentioned, we don't have, plans formalized yet, but we are looking at different areas of opportunity to, again, try to get that word out proactively before a veteran and their spouse should need care, to learn more about this benefit.
Well, it would be a smart move to reach out and connect with Patriot Angels. I am so grateful for the work that you guys are doing and helping veterans get the care and support that they need wherever they are. Thank you again for your time today, Jason, and I can't wait to reconnect and see how things are going in 2025.
Absolutely. Again, thank you, Adrienne. Really appreciate the opportunity, and happy holidays all.